Hey guys, this is Brett Young, Taylor Young, and Rod Erb, and you're tuned in to the Be Extraordinary podcast with Erb and Young. Real conversations about business, leadership, and personal development.
So welcome to another episode of the Be Extraordinary podcast. This is our internal version, and I am joined by Jordan Williams and Hannah Goldson and Patty Gardone. And so I just wanted to invite you guys to talk about what you've been doing over the last 60 to 90 days. And it's so exciting. You guys have formed a group, what we called internally the Special Forces. Yep. And that was kind of this hyper-focused unit that was going to be able to accomplish some things that we have never done. So I want to talk about that today, like what we learned, chaos challenges, how you played team, what you've been able to accomplish. You know, I know you've been here 3.5 years.
Yep, 3.5 years.
And held different seats, anywhere from service, sales, back to service, to leadership. And now, again, taking on more responsibility. And Patty, you're not new to the industry, but new to us last June.
Yes.
And crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's ever been somebody that's come in and been able to like plug in and contribute at such a high level right away. So you've been a gift to be able to work with, not only from a culture standpoint, but also your knowledge base and just being able to come in and saying, I have experience a little bit, and it's been really helpful. So, and then Hannah, you get here and we met after a talk at UCF, and you were getting out of college, and mom was in insurance in some sort of capacity, but never thought you'd be interested in it. And then all of a sudden, what's that?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, months later, you know, we kept in touch and ended up working out that you came on board about a year ago. And so it's cool that your journeys run a little bit parallel. And then here we are in this experience, and you guys having a ton of success. So kind of what I want to frame is for the listener, if they don't know. So we acquired 2 businesses in the last 120 days, something like that.
Yep.
Which is a little bit of a head scratcher for most people to comprehend if they knew kind of what all goes on. And I don't want to take for granted that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Meaning every single phone call that you guys have taken to service this new customer base and to complete a ticket, to get a no coverage situation to coverage, all this stuff that most people don't see, it's been an incredible success so far, but it hasn't been easy. Right. So, first of all, why don't you walk me into how these conversations started when you knew, hey, how would we handle this? If we were able to bring in service, how would we handle this? Bring me into this like special forces concept.
Yeah. So I think first acquisition was, I'd say, 3 months ago now. And it was new. It's something we're exercising a new muscle to the best of our ability. We learned from that. And a lot of it was just, okay, clients are usually calling in for a problem, calling in about some sort of situation that they're dealing with, and it's up to us to solve their problem or guide them to a solution for their problem. I think that's the biggest, takeaway on the entire acquisition, both of them, of just the problem that they come in with is our capability to solve it and solve it in a very high manner for that. So I think that of both of them, but the first one specifically, just within login issues, with everything else, data, fun things, all of those things that come into it is just the problem we just now get to solve.
Yeah, I would love, Patty, to speak to that, because if you don't know, right, when you acquire a business, they have their whole slew of the 100 companies they work with and all their credentials and logins and carrier codes and all that stuff. And a lot of them are outdated. You had to do password resets. So you're trying to get in and serve a customer. You have them on the phone. You're trying to get in. Outdated passwords, can't get in, have to go through forwarded email, the whole deal, right? So you're managing this chaos through an imperfect system of data and carrier codes. And also a different demographic. I remember when we acquired an agency, Coverage Pro, just in Melbourne in 2018. And it was just a much older demographic. Didn't make it bad, good, different. It just wasn't what we were used to servicing. You know, we were used to servicing clients that had email, did e-sign, maybe a little bit younger because we were younger, and then all of a sudden you have people that are used to walking in. They don't have email addresses, and they're used to doing it a certain way because they've been clients for 20, 30 years. So I'd love you to speak for kind of some of the challenges that came from just a different area of the state, different demographic, older agency owner, kind of how you handled some of those situations.
I just mostly handled it with a little bit more patience because of the demographic. A lot of them, like you mentioned earlier, have been with the prior agency for over 20 years, so they're used to things a certain way. So I just had to like kind of guide them and like kind of hold their hand through the whole process and, you know, be a little bit more patient and explain things slower. And I ended up taking on like, yes, ma'am, no, sir, kind of like that little drawl because that's how they speak. So I ended up taking up their drawl, and it was fun. Also, with the login issues, I would just explain it to the client. I would just tell them, hey, we're still in the middle of transitioning all the information over. I appreciate your patience and understanding. Is it okay if I give you a call back as soon as I log in? And I'll get you taken care of. And for the most part, a lot of them were very understanding and were fine with it.
Wow. So there's this tendency, one, that's a clue on mirroring the person you're talking to. Like having a little bit of flexibility in your approach to say, okay, I'm picking up on a little bit of a more yes, ma'am, no, ma'am thing. Okay, so let me mirror that a little bit to show the respect for the client and get in rapport. Because if we're not in rapport, maybe I can't ask that question for a little bit of grace because of the login issues. So, but what a great way to how many times that we want to do something immediately, it doesn't work. And now we have to figure out whether we freak out, whether we over-apologize to the client, or whether we keep calm and set a proper expectation of what's to come. And usually, if we can do the latter, I found, and maybe you guys find more often than not, they're pretty understanding. Yeah, if you can check all those boxes about getting in rapport, making sure they feel seen and heard, and then ask the question that if it's okay to give me a little bit of grace while we figure this out. So I think that's a really pro tip from you. It sounded like it was just a little bit intuitive because it's interesting. Like both businesses that we acquired, very great reputations, really solid agencies, staff that's been there a really long time and done a great job. And even then, there's just a difference in the way that they're used to doing business. And that's a hurdle to overcome. Doesn't matter how great the business or the people were. So that's really, really cool, Patty. What about you, Hannah? What have you learned?
I think just like Patty said, going with them and walking them through it and just trying to figure out solutions. If you don't have an email, what other ways we can kind of work around that, marrying them, like you said, and just figuring out, hey, I can call the carrier and try and get this sorted for you since we can't log in. So just allow that time, and I'll definitely reach back out with a solution for you.
Yeah, and I think, too, like the structure, a lot of it's been new, and we haven't even yet understood the fruit that you guys are yielding because the main focus is like operators in the market. We want them building, right? They want to build. And so the benefit to be able to come in and be able to have a team and buy in a relationship shared expense and be able to have them service customers to allow you to get to building, it's such a benefit and it's so seen. And so I just wanted to say again, if I don't say it enough on this, thank you for your willingness, because I think what I think is most impressive by it all is that before this happened, it's not like you're bored at work. It's not like you weren't busy, right? It's not like you didn't already go home every day like we all do and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this done? And so for somebody to come, and Jessica and myself come and say, hey, we have this new idea. This is going to be so fun. What do you think? And for you guys to say, this sounds fun, I'm in. Could you bring me into that, like how you hold that?
Yeah, I think I feel like we're all a little bit like competition oriented. I think we could find the fun and the game involved in it necessarily. And you play with the clients. I think it's a part of the rapport building that Patty it kind of stuck to. But it was like you get to be their like communication now, like through all the problems and stuff. So when I was like first going through the ideas with Jessica, I mean I was like perfect. Like we'll put the best people and the best option that we can to like now go solve problems. These are the best problem solvers we have in the spots right now. So for those people to come in and now solve the other people's problems that they probably don't even know of yet, and then still do that at such a high capacity of 5 stars, new business. Hannah was the first to get 5-star on a Pensacola page and the Jupiter page. So like to see all of those things still happening with our busyness, it's still all wins.
Yeah, I think too, if you think big picture, you talk about you being used to what you're used to. I've had many conversations with agency owners in the last year that, hey, bring me into your service experience. How much new business is your service team writing? How many 5-star reviews are they getting, right? And a lot of times you get a ghost glare and you're like, well, my service, how much are they writing new business? No, they don't. We don't really write new business, and we don't really give, right? Okay, great. So, we've gamified it. We've taken on this challenge. And so for you to come in and that quickly be able to say, hey, I'm already adding value. Here's a 5-star review. Boom, already added a value, another line of business. You could have an agency go a whole year, and you have a handful of new business that was written that wasn't just an order taken request, but it was actually rounded. So it's so impressive. And then I also think, Hannah, you speak to you this past month, probably been, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, do you think you've been as busy as you ever have been as far as the volume of requests, what's required just on the service side?
I think even more, just trying to take on as much as you can without drowning and trying to get the most out of every client and seeing what they're needing and just trying to make every experience great for them while also trying to, get a win for yourself of like, hey, we have options for you for auto, flood, whatever it is, and just trying to get all of their lines with us and try and service them to what they're expecting.
What are you doing right now? Because you hit 15 this past month.
Yeah.
You've been gaining on it, right? So it's not like you went from 0 or 1 to 15, but you're going from a handful to maybe 2 handfuls to all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a second. Hannah's got a lot of responsibility. She's been on both, sets of special forces teams, and now all of a sudden she puts up 15 new business or whatever you ended up with last month in June. And so what are you doing different right now to yield the fruit? You just qualified silver with what, 4 months to play? Yeah. 3 months to play?
3 months, yeah.
And so you have a whole quarter, you've qualified silver. You are only a year into the business. And so what's clicking right now?
I think just speed to lead. Jordan and I talked about this a lot of just trying to get the quotes out there, but sometimes you get pulled to other things and just trying to make sure, and if I round it same day, getting the quote out that day has really clicked because it's on top of clients' mind.
Yeah, they're paying attention. Hey, I got you. You said yes, pay attention. Let's do this now. If I let it go a couple days because I'm busy, I might as well not even do it, right? Like kind of concept. Like if I'm going to do it, let's do it quick and let's see if we can get the outcome. That's a good nugget. What about you, Patty? Obviously, you've had some months where you've broken out and you've kind of been like, okay, wow, consistently you've been one of the top producers this year, especially in the last 6 months in relationship management. And I know you had shared something, I don't know if it was after a training or after the new year, but I just remember saying, hey, what are you doing? And you said something that I can't recall, but bring me into like how you found some success. And you just qualified for bronze with 3 months to play. So bring me into what you're doing.
I've been setting the appointments. So when the client calls in for the quote, I'll make an effort to set the appointment with them on the phone to get back out to them and go over the quote, to do the presentation and then gain the sale. And I've also, because of I've been busier, I've just been quoting them while I've been on the phone.
Okay.
I've made that little adjustment because of the volume. I want to make sure that they're prioritized as well. So I've been trying to quote them while I have them on the phone, and that's been a success so far because they're right there. I'm going through all the questions, asking them all the pre-underwriting information. They send me what I need for the proof of insurance, and then flood policy sold or an auto policy sold.
Yeah, I remember when you started quoting real time. You maybe can speak to that too, how you've had success with that.
No, and I think in having just recent conversations with you guys, like the speed to lead being one thing, but I think it's your ability to like hold the conversations with the clients, and like the clients know and trust you in how you talk over the phone. Like you have a language, you have that like, I'm going to take care of you. And like you have like whether it's a soft spoken or the peacefulness or however it is, like you guys are talking through it, like that's where they know and can trust you And that's the feeling you're creating for these people. It's like they want the feeling that they can call one person and handle all of your insurance. It's like, oh, I call Patty, I call Hannah, I call Jordan, I call Taylor, and like they handle my insurance. And like you're building that trust on that first initial call that allows you to do so much more like that, where you can, the speed to lead's an easy one but like you look at the deep details of it, you guys are just holding great conversations.
You know, you also remind me of like as much as of a team focus this has been, and I want to talk to that next. There's also the client remembers the person, right? We'll always say if I work with you and you do a great job and we have a great connection, I'm going to tell whoever, oh, yeah, look, the Urban Young team's great, but you got to talk to Patty. Patty took great care of me, you know, whatever it is. And I think that's perfect, like leaning into that to say, have my team behind me. But I also make these personal connections with clients, and it's okay for them want to refer to an individual or work with an individual if possible, right? We just don't want that to be at the deficit of the client experience. That's what team's there for, right? Make sure if Patty's on the phone, you still get your phone call to answer. But look, if Patty's working with somebody, like, let's finish it. They want to work with Patty, that's great. So, but speak to the team aspects. I think that's what rings true to me is to say you can't do this without the team aspect. I mean, it's a very challenging thing. There's no backup. You have 6 days. You have life that happens. But the fact that you three have come together, what have you learned about working with each other in this team aspect of being able to do something that's, quote, unquote, very hard because you've never done it to all of a sudden, you know, there's a lot of things along the way you learn, and a lot of that is who you're doing it with.
I mean, I think it's just like you care about each other. I think that's the biggest thing is like I'm not going to slow down what I do to then hindrance someone else. I hold up my standards, Patty holds up hers, Hannah holds up theirs, and then we now just get to pour more fuel onto that fire and then just continue to move that wheel. I think in the biggest part, and it's like we collaborate against each other. I mean, we're having conversations every single day. We have an open office for a reason. We ask a billion questions a day, and I always say, ask more questions. We're not going to have answers, but we're going to figure them out. And we have new problems every single day, but it's our willingness to just communicate on them, have an execution plan, and then just execute. That's I think the biggest emphasis of it all.
Yeah. How do you guys hold the team aspect of it?
It's just been more of like tag teaming. Like if she's on the phone with a client already helping in Pensacola and another Pensacola calls in, then, you know, I'm going to be there to help. So we're just making sure that we're covering each other to make sure that the clients are assisted and also not make us feel like we're overwhelmed or that one person's taking on more than the other.
Yeah.
And especially with like the emails before it was transitioned into
HubSpot?
the virtual assistant. We would take turns. Like if she was in them, I wouldn't go in because I didn't want to mess up what she was working on. And then if I was in there, she wouldn't go in so that we wouldn't, you know, mess up that system.
So you kind of learn the cadence and the rhythm of the feel of it to say, okay, I see she's overwhelmed. I'm going to pick this up. Yeah. I love that. That sort of intuition and awareness, I think, is very important because, look, let's call it like it is. We're not always a 10 out of 10 on every day, right? We have stuff that happens, and sometimes you can see, hey, they're not having a great day. We do it as partners all the time with Brett, Rod, and myself. Sometimes there's this tendency to trauma bond where it's like, oh, well, they're upset, so I'm going to be upset. But then I think what's more productive and healthy is to say, you know what, they're having a tough day. I'm going to raise my game. I'm going to make sure they know they feel my presence and that they can lean on me, that when they go home for the night, they can say, you know what, they may not say it out loud, but they can know that they put up and I was struggling today. And I look forward to being able to do that for them. So last kind of question, and then we'll wrap it up. In regards to the volume that you're handling and the production that you're experiencing, do you think the production is because of the volume, meaning you're getting more opportunities, or do you think the production or the volume is forcing you to get better because your time is more finite and you're now forced to do it over the phone real time, or you're forced to how do you kind of hold that as far as what's the leading indicator of that? Do you think it's just the volume because you're getting more opportunities? Do you think it's the volume forcing you to get better?
I think it's a balance of both. Yeah, there's more opportunities in there and you'll find them, but just focusing on how to round more and do better and get a quote out instantly to the client, it forces you to like try and get better on splitting up your time and prioritizing what you need to get done in the day and every hour.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. What about you, Patty?
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's finding the right balance. And I think it does force, at least with me personally, it does force me to step up my game and get better and be better with the time management because of the volume. And then we are able to round more because we have more opportunities. So that's going to create more outcomes for us. So it's finding the balance, but also I think it's mostly just forcing us just to step up our game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I just wanted to, again, commend you guys. I think, we obviously are big on culture. It's on Jordan's hat. And I know that is maybe a large reason why all of us are sitting here, because we appreciate that about this place. But there are these moments in time where small groups, we always talk about the power of small groups. I think there's a reason in the military why there's a special forces. There's this flexibility to go into the unknown and to have each other's back, right? There's something to this small groups, and you guys have really inspired me and hopefully the whole organization, which is why I want to tell the story, because I think most people don't know about it. And it's just the essence of what this place is, and that's love for one another, willing to try new things, do hard things, and then also the constant iteration process of personal development, right? You just mentioned every single phone call, you're reflecting and saying, okay, how'd that go? Like, all right, I could ask this question a little different. Okay, I could pick up that they were saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and I'm going to change that. Okay, I could ask this question and give myself a little bit more time while I was dealing with these carrier codes. And I just think sometimes that's lost in this quantum leap type expectation that we have, that I'm going to come in and I'm going to have these massive results and I'm going to know how to do it all. Even though you guys are experiencing massive results amongst that, I bet it doesn't feel like that because you know what you're doing daily. Right?
Yeah.
It feels like that when you see it in somebody else. I look at you and I go, you've been in the business for a year and you just put up 15 new business policies and you just helped with 2 acquisitions and what? And I'm like, Patty, you only been with the organization for a year. You've come in, you've done whatever. You already achieved bronze. You don't even know what operations lead is, and you're qualified to go to the dinner, right? And it's like, Jordan, it's like, hey, great, you've been in the leadership role for about a year and you need some change, and all of a sudden you're like, here you go, Jordan. Here's some chaos. I know you had some other plans, but here's more and more and more and more, and you continue to say yes with a good attitude. So again, I would just commend you. If anybody picks anything from this conversation, I would think that, man, the people you're doing this with, protect them, serve them, love on them, challenge them, hold each other accountable, and you can do amazing things. And I love that you guys are having great individual results amongst all this, because I think that is also to the essence of, the power of the team is the team, right? The power of the individual is the team. Right? And it's you guys, because you're bonded together and you're working together, you're having elevated results. So thank you. I could scream it as a mountaintop. There's so much going on in this organization, and I just am so inspired by the heroes that continue to show up and answer the phones, help people, do the right thing, and just work on themselves throughout the process. And you 3 are a perfect example of that. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
All right. We're better for it.